Big news today for the Seminoles as they land a transfer wide receiver and beat out the Gators in the process. They get a speedy wide receiver in the transfer portal, hailing from University of Alabama is where he transfers from, and the Noles continue to stay hot at certain positions in the portal. Malik Benson commits to the Noles over the Gators. He visited both schools here in the last week. We'll talk about that in just a moment, but he is 195 pounds, 6'1", played in all 13 games for the Crimson Tide this season, was a JUCO recruit last year before joining Alabama. Four-star JUCO prospect, according to 247 Sports, went to Hutchinson Community College. He was the number one overall player in the country in the JUCO ranks. This year for Alabama, he had 13 receptions, 162 yards. He did score one touchdown as well. Again, played in every game outside of that playoff game. He had already entered the portal at that point. On three, had him listed as a five-star coming out of the JUCO ranks. Speed is absolutely the name of the game here. Florida State seems like they're trying to get a lot faster with some of these portal additions. I feel like they have the big-bodied Hakeem Williams and other guys in their rooms. You think about Kentron and others. Speed seems to be what they're going after here. He was a track star in high school, ran about 10.4 in the 100-meter dash, also ran the 200 and did hurdles, so pretty diverse athlete when it comes to that. But speed, certainly the name of the game, certainly what Mike Norvell is looking for here, trying to stretch the field a little bit. We've talked a lot about that Pokey Wilson role, somebody that I don't think Florida State really had in that role in 2023, an absolute burner who could just take the top off of the defense. Pokey certainly kind of filled that need for you. At times in 2022, I could see them very much wanting Benson to kind of be that same guy. 6'1", similar size that Pokey had. Not going to go up and just moss people or anything like that, but can certainly run routes well and take the top off the defense going down the field. You went head-to-head with the Florida Gators here, and so this is a big part, and we're going to focus on it for just a little bit. That's a big deal. Anytime you're going head-to-head with your biggest rival in the state certainly does give it a little bit of extra meaning, certainly does give you a little bit of a boost of confidence when you end up landing the kid. I think it speaks to a couple of things. The kid visited both Florida and Florida State. A lot of times your first visit on a transfer prospect is the most important. In high school recruiting, you really like to get that last visit. Transfer recruiting, you really, really like to get that first one. But he visited Florida first. They were not able to close it down, and he did make his trip over to Tallahassee. Shortly after his trip to Tallahassee, we told our Discord members that this is probably the way it was going to go down. We told them that we really liked where the Noles stood, and that prediction obviously ended up coming true as the Noles get his commitment. But I think it speaks to a bigger thing. I think recruits understand and they know the trajectory of the two programs just is not the same. When you look at the difference between Mike Norvell and Billy Napier, the stability around both programs, kind of where both programs are viewed nationally. We talked on this week's live show about where both programs are kind of viewed. We talked about where Florida State is viewed, and Vegas has Florida State as a top 8-ish team going into next year as far as who could potentially win the national championship. Vegas sees Florida State as a potential playoff team. I think Florida's win total is going to come in around 4 or 5 this season. So when you look at Napier versus Norvell, it's not really a surprise that Mike Norvell would take home a recruiting battle at this point. When you look at him offensively, I think the Gators' offense was better than people expected last year, but this certainly still doesn't hold a candle to what Florida State is expected to do offensively under Mike Norvell. When you look at the quarterbacks that he may or may not be playing with, you look at Graham Mertz versus DJ Uiagalelei this year, and there's really no question. Again, Mertz had a better year than I think a lot of people were expecting, including us. But I do think that when you look at which quarterback would somebody really want to play for, which offense would somebody really want to play for, I don't know there's a major question between that and Graham Mertz and DJ Uiagalelei. So the benefits of getting Uiagalelei committed and on your campus already are already starting to show signs. But if you visit both places want you. UF certainly wanted this kid, and he picks the Noles, a big, big win there. It's a commitment, so as always, we have our Battles End quarter zip on. Make sure that you're supporting the Battles End. Hey, we've gotten like 7 or 8 portal commitments at this point. If you can't do a monthly subscription, just go sign up and give $7 or $8 for the number of commits that we've gotten out of the portal so far. A one-time donation certainly does help as much as you can. We certainly would appreciate your support over there at thebattlesend.com. We appreciate all that they do. You're not picking up transfers from Alabama. You're not picking up speedy wide receivers that your rivals want without the Battle's End and their help and what they are doing to help continue to build this roster. Florida State is not in a rebuild mode. They're not in a let's try and do the best we can this year. The Battle's End and Florida State are absolutely focused on trying to take this thing to the next level, and they're doing so with not only roster retention, which you're seeing a lot of right now, but also acquiring new players. We appreciate our friends over at thebattlesend.com and all that they do. I give to them monthly and would encourage you to do the same thing. Now, back to this. Ron Dugans, Mike Norvell, offensive staff, offensive recruiting, certainly not something we're going to complain about right now. That wide receiver room is getting pretty crowded at this moment. There are a lot of options for Mike Norvell, Ron Dugans, and this offensive staff, Alex Atkins, to be able to pick and choose from. That's only going to benefit the Noles going forward. I think having that many weapons, having that many guys that they can go and count on, that many guys that they can go and lean on for different things, different skill sets, different abilities, kind of what you're looking for as far as, speed, size, power, agility, running routes, possession receivers, whatever. They certainly kind of have their pick at this point. I think at this point it's figuring out who's going to separate themselves. And you've got a long way to go until August. You certainly have plenty of time to kind of get that ironed out. But it's now who separates themselves. I don't know who your true number one is right now. At this point, I'd guess that was Kentron Portier. I would guess that Hakeem Williams could maybe kind of fill into that role at some point. You'd think that Destin Hill could step up and be kind of into that upper echelon of receiver role. I saw Darian Williamson announced with the Battle's End. I know that he's been kind of hit or miss with availability and then performance, but who is going to step up and kind of be that number one for the Noles this year? Who's going to step up and be the number two? Who's going to be your slot guy? Who can you really count on when live bullets start going? We'll learn a lot about that in the spring. I think Benson gives you a little bit better idea of who might fill into your speedster role. We talked a little bit about Lucas and others that they've picked up, Jalen Brown. They've certainly been active at that wide receiver position, but who ends up being that guy when it's all said and done? Who ends up being your wide receiver 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on when you kick off in Ireland? Long way to go to figure that out, but Mike Norvell, Ron Dugans, Alex Atkins have a ton of options, and Ron Dugans has done a good job closing here. This is now your second pickup from Alabama in this cycle, and the Noles might not be done with pickups from Alabama. We talked a little bit in our live this week about the running back that's coming in potentially for a visit next week. Talks about the offensive lineman that they had on campus not too long ago. Can the Noles land and go 2 for 2 there? Can they go 1 for 2? Do they miss on both? What ends up happening? We've tried to keep our members of our Discord updated. You can go to patreon.com/DFNS to get access there to the exclusive chat. I believe it's like $3 a month, so it's certainly worth it. If you don't like it, cancel and you're good to go. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. Again, a big day for the Noles as they land Malik Benson, transfer from Alabama over the Florida Gators, who tried desperately to get him to commit, but they were not able to. Mike Norvell stuffs Sunbelt Billy in a locker one more time, takes his record against him up another notch. We appreciate you guys for tuning in and watching. We'll talk to you soon. Go Noles.